Hey everyone out there. I just felt the need to come on and have an emergency AC podcast episode to talk about some things because I just got a lot on my mind when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, the podcast I released earlier this week with my boy Connie Westside Conrad on My Team, My Voice. Check him out. Obviously, that podcast I released when I talked about the Philadelphia Eagles, I described them as broken. But I didn't really get to add context why, we had to rush out of there and whatnot. But I really want to get to it. I got a lot to share. I got a lot on my mind. So if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan and you want to understand why this team is struggling so much, I suggest you pay attention and you listen closely. Because I'm about to give you a lot of information that I haven't before. But I got to start with Carson Wentz. Because I feel bad for this guy, but I'm also very upset with this guy. I thought, he was going to be a top quarterback in the league. I still believe he can be. He has the talent. We all see it. But this season has been an atrocious season for him. It's been flat out disgraceful. I can't defend him, although I'm going to at some point, because this stuff is just unacceptable. But the stuff he's doing is indefensible. Going into the season, this guy was ranked 32nd in completion percentage, 58.4. First in turnovers with 16. 30th in yards per attempt, 6.2. He has the highest off-target percentage of any quarterback in the league, 24%. And this is just an abomination. This is no good. 12 touchdowns, 12 interceptions on the season. You're 27th in QBR of 50. This is some unacceptable stuff, and it's indefensible. You hold on to the ball too long. You don't know when to throw the ball away. But you know what? All that stuff is well-deserved, Carson Wentz, he deserves all the criticism that he's getting. I'm not going to sit up here and say that he doesn't. And even some of y'all messaged me and, because I've been defending him a little bit. But for the most part, I'm not defending this nonsense. I can't. Leading the league in turnovers, 50 QBR, 58.4 completion percentage. You're not even completing 60% of your passes. It's pathetic. This stuff isn't defensible. And so when I'm just looking at this stuff, I'm just like, what is the reason for this? And like I said, some of it is Carson holding on to the ball too long. Sometimes he's double pumping and not throwing the ball when he should. He's missing a lot of throws, leaving a lot of throws on the field. Decision making has been porous. Execution of plays has been porous. He fumbles the ball way too much, leading the league in fumbles since he came into the league. There's just a bunch of stuff to highlight with this guy. But despite all that, I still believe in this guy. And for the life of me, I just don't understand why the Philadelphia Eagles make things so tough. And I'm talking about the organization. They do some of the most boneheaded stuff I've ever seen in my life as a fan. And for the life of me, I don't understand why. I just don't get this stuff that they're doing. It doesn't add up. So an article came out this week about how to fix the Philadelphia Eagles. And they had some scouts who are in the NFL, execs in the NFL, experts. I'm not an expert, but I for sure can analyze. But they had some experts and, people who are plugged into the league talk about how to fix the Philadelphia Eagles. And let me read you what one exec said. I still love him, said one area scout whose team evaluated Wentz in the 2016 NFL draft. Everyone wants to pile on him, but he's in the worst situation in the NFL in terms of supporting cast. The real question is whether or not that front office is good enough to surround him with the talent he needs. You could cover up some of his weaknesses, but they haven't. Wentz isn't likely as bad as his 2020 tape, but how did the Eagles find the quarterback who in the 3 previous seasons only threw 7 interceptions per year, but now has 12 in just 9 games? Solving that isn't about drafting a wide receiver or getting a healthy left tackle. So let's just start with that first. Number one, the only thing I don't agree with that he said is that Wentz is in the worst situation as far as supporting cast. No, the Patriots have the worst supporting cast in the league as far as offensive weaponry. It's an abomination. So the Eagles aren't that bad, but they're pretty bad. But when you look at overall, man, you can make that argument since Wentz is coming to the league. His first 2 seasons in the league, no, 2 of his first 3 seasons in the league, he had the worst receivers in the league. I don't need to outline these guys. I don't need to go back and do it, but most of these guys are practice squad players or guys that aren't in the league anymore. And if we're getting production out of practice squad players, what does that say about your draft and talent evaluating? The fact that we have to rely on practice squad players and dudes that aren't in the league anymore. What does that say about you as a front office? You see, for the life of me, this is what I don't understand. We pay the quarterbacks all this money, and then we want to get on the quarterback when the front office isn't doing their job. Oh, you're supposed to elevate the talent around you when you're giving me scrubs? I mean, dang. You're giving me dudes that don't even belong in the league. Dudes that are working at McDonald's, Burger King, striving to just get one chance in the NFL. No offense to their careers, but I'm just saying. You want me to work with that? You're not even giving me NFL quality talent. These dudes can't even stay on rosters. They're bouncing from 8, 9 different rosters, and they're laying up on your roster because you're injured. And so now they're playing meaningful snaps. And I don't need to get into the nitty gritty of them having to prepare for games and learning playbooks and all that jazz. But I mean, give me a break. If you give me the worst, continually give me the worst in the league, this is what I don't understand. Carson Wentz turned water into wine last year. He made the playoffs somehow. Like I said, I don't know how he did it. The Eagles weren't impressive anyways. 9-7. They were trashed the whole season. But Carson Wentz still threw all that through 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. First quarterback in NFL history to throw for 4,500 yards without a 500-yard receiver. How do you throw for that many yards? And I'm not a person who even cares about yards. But how do you throw for that many yards and not have one 500-yard receiver? That means your receiving corps are some of the worst known to man. Even this year. And this is no excuse as far as I'm concerned, but even this year, Carson Wentz has the most expected points added as far as drops in the league. The most impactful plays on the game have been dropped. The Eagles have the most drops. Carson Wentz has suffered the most drops on expected points added in the league. Impactful plays, touchdowns, big plays, 20 plus yards or more. Excuse me. He's had the most of them dropped. And we're continuously getting on this guy. And then let's take it a step further. Because the Eagles, they think they're so smart, man. These dudes, they think they're so smart. It's so funny how much they think they know, but they really don't know. Let's go back to the 2019 NFL Draft, where these guys took Andre Dillard instead of Marquise Brown. But no, they did one better. They took J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who was a healthy scratch the last game against the Giants. A healthy scratch, a second-round pick. 1.5 years into his career, he's a healthy scratch. And in his career, he has 12 receptions. He had 10 last year for 169 yards and a touchdown, and he was a scrub last year. This year, he only has 2 receptions on the season. A second-round pick, and you're not even getting meaningful production out of him? But let's take it a step further. You chose J.J. Arcega-Whiteside over DK Metcalf, who's one of the top receivers in the league right now, was leading the league in receiving yards at one point. You took a guy out of the Pac-12 over a guy in the SEC. But let's take it a step further, because DK Metcalf isn't the only good receiver that came out of that draft. I already mentioned Marquise Brown. You passed up on Deebo Samuel. You passed up on his teammate, A.J. Brown. And you passed up on Terry McLaurin, who's in your own division. Who is evaluating this talent as far as the receiver position? Howie Roseman, once again. This guy is not a good GM. He deserves to be fired. I'm sorry. This guy does not deserve a job with the Philadelphia Eagles. Aside from 2017 when the Eagles won the Super Bowl and he hit on every free agent decision, what has this guy done that's meaningful for this football team? You didn't want to trade for Stephon Diggs or DeAndre Hopkins, but you put all your eggs into the basket. And now let's go to this draft, because the Eagles put all their eggs into the basket of fixing the wide receiver position, which was the worst in the league last year. They put all their eggs into the basket of the draft when they routinely have not drafted well. You didn't want to get You didn't want to get DeAndre Hopkins or Stephon Diggs. You didn't want to trade for them. You put all the eggs in your basket into drafting in the first round. And not only that, you drafted one receiver in the first 4 rounds. You waited till the 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds to grab receivers. Like, that is going to give you meaningful stuff. And these guys are not producing. John Hightower's made a few plays, but he's not. He's a 5th round pick for a reason. Quez Watkins, he's a 6th round pick. He hasn't even played. But let's look at it a little deeper. You had the option between Jalen Reagor and Justin Jefferson. Now, I like Jalen Reagor. This is not a slight to him. But I thought for sure the Eagles were going to choose Justin Jefferson if he fell to them. Guy from LSU, a guy who was in the national championship and had college production and is only 20 years old. I thought the Eagles were going to choose that guy. But instead they went with Jalen Reagor because they needed speed. But the problem with that thinking was this. The Eagles didn't just need speed at wide receiver. They just need good wide receivers, period. Alshon Jeffrey is not good. He runs with a sack of potatoes and a truck on his back. He's slow and old, and the Eagles guaranteed his contract. Another mistake by Howie Roseman. Guaranteed him $10 million of his contract coming into this year, and he's only played 1 game. And that game was last week against the Giants, week 10, and he was on the active roster, hurt, taking up a valuable roster spot for 9 weeks when he could have been on PUP for the first 6 weeks. This is the foolishness that I'm talking about. But let's go back. You had the choice between Jalen Reagor and Justin Jefferson. And the ironic part of it all is this. Justin Jefferson has 4 100-yard receiving games since he's came into the league. He's balling out of control with the Minnesota Vikings, who picked him to pick right after you chose Jalen Reagor. Now, once again, this is not a slight at Jalen Reagor, but draft picks are not made in a vacuum. You're inevitably going to be compared to somebody. And right now, the tie is Jalen Reagor versus Justin Jefferson. And Justin Jefferson so far looks like he's going to be a future star receiver in this league. And Jalen Reagor, while he's made some plays, you just can't help but look at Justin Jefferson and like, dang, this guy's balling over here. And you can't help but think the Eagles so far did not make the right decision. And once again, it comes back to the GM, Howie Roseman. Who is making these decisions? This stuff just doesn't add up to me. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside over DK Metcalf, and now Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. So you mean to tell me the 2 dudes who have the most 20-plus yard receptions in the league this year, a rookie and a second-year player, could have been on the Philadelphia Eagles? You know, the thing is, on one hand, it's unacceptable that Carson Wentz is leading the league in turnovers. But on the other hand, I can't really think of any quarterbacks that will be successful with this supporting cast and this coaching. I just can't really think of any. You put Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes in these situations, I mean, I'm sure they'll be okay, but they're not going to thrive like they are in Green Bay and Kansas City, respectively. I've never known a quarterback that's been successful throwing it to themselves. And for any of you who are going to say, oh, yeah, Zach Ertz yards after catch are similar to Jason Witten, who is one of the slowest players known to man. But then it gets even worse, you know. Then another NFL executive shares some thoughts. He says he thinks Wentz is mentally defeated. This was his quote. First, you have to sit on the sidelines and watch Nick Foles win a Super Bowl with your team. Then you watch your general manager draft a quarterback in the second round instead of giving you more help. That's going to take a toll on a kid who was never seen as mentally tough. You know, oh man, the Eagles created this situation with Jalen Hurts, and it's not even working First off, let's just give some background on Jalen Hurts. Let me do this real quick because I did not love this pick at all anyways for a multitude of reasons. But here's the first one. If you were thinking, if the Eagles, they say this isn't true, but we don't know at this point. We don't know what to believe with the Philadelphia Eagles. They're doing all types of idiotic stuff these days. But let's say, for the sake of argument, for whatever reason, they thought about this, Jalen Hurts could replace Carson Wentz if Carson Wentz doesn't work out, which, if you did that, let's just go back for a second. The Eagles gave Carson Wentz his extension last year. And then you draft a quarterback the next year who, let's just abide by the argument that you think could replace him. What kind of sense does it make to pay your quarterback and then go draft one in the second round that you think could replace him? That's the first idiotic mistake right there. That's a fireable offense right there. You gave top quarterback money to this guy, but now you don't believe in him, so you're going to go draft another guy. So that makes no sense. But let's just abide by, you wanted to get a backup quarterback. You can get one in free agency. You could have got Andy Dalton. You could have got Jameis Winston. You could have got Joe Flacco. I'm not saying any of these guys are good, but I'm just saying. You could have got Joe Flacco. These dudes acting like a backup quarterback is these. And this is what I mean when these guys think they're so smart. They think they're so great because they won a Super Bowl with a backup. But how many times has that happened in NFL history? Go back and look at the past decade of Super Bowl winners or teams that were in the Super Bowl. They were not getting there with backups. And Nick Foles didn't have to do that much because the table was already set because Carson Wentz had already gotten the Eagles the number 1 seed. I get you say, the most important position is the backup. The second most important position is the backup quarterback because if the quarterback goes down, then the backup. But let's just be honest about this. If your starter goes down, most likely your season is over. If your starter's out for the season, your season is over, most likely. You're not doing anything meaningful. You're not. Ben Roethlisberger went down last year for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They went 8-8. It was a miracle. But nobody in their right mind would have thought that the Steelers, if they got into the playoffs, would have did anything meaningful. Let's just keep that all the way clear. If Patrick Mahomes would have went down for the season with that knee injury that he suffered, I believe against the Broncos last year, the Chiefs were done. They weren't going anywhere. Lamar Jackson goes down. RG3 is not taking you anywhere meaningful. Aaron Rodgers goes down. They got a top 10, top 15 pick when he went down. It's just the reality. There's value in having a backup quarterback. Sure there is. I'm not knocking that. But the reality is you're not going anywhere meaningful if your starter is out for the season. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. And so the Eagles fooled themselves into thinking, we won a Super Bowl with a backup. We're great. We can do all these things and keep all this stuff the same and whatnot. And that is not the case. And so when you draft Jalen Hurts in the second round, let's just look at Jalen Hurts' college career. Played at Alabama, won a national championship. But this guy got replaced by Tua Tagovailoa. For what reason? Why at halftime did Nick Saban come out and play a guy who had never played in his career yet? A freshman. Why did Nick Saban replace Jalen Hurts with that guy? Let's think about it. Because Jalen Hurts was a runner. He was never known for being able to throw the football. Never. Never in Jalen Hurts' career has he been known as a proficient thrower. Tua's known for that. And we see it right now. He's balling. But Jalen Hurts has never been known as a thrower of the football. Which is why he got replaced. And so what did he do? Which was smart by him. This is a smart decision. I'm not going to knock it. But he went to the most quarterback-friendly offense in the entire FBS. He went to Oklahoma. Oklahoma that produced the last 2 number 1 overall picks and last 2 Heisman Trophy winners. Lincoln Riley. He went to that offense and had the best receiver in the nation, CeeDee Lamb. But let's add more context. This guy, Jalen Hurts, struggled 2 times against Baylor. Number 1, no one in the Big 12 is known for their defense. No one. Not one soul in the Big 12 is known for their defense. And Jalen Hurts was struggling with the best offensive mind in the league against Baylor. Couldn't throw. Couldn't complete passes. And then when he went up against LSU, because he was the Heisman runner, when he went up against the Heisman Trophy winner, this guy got blown off the field. It wasn't even a contest. When Justin Jefferson had 4 touchdown catches, Jalen Hurts had 3 passes completed. And the Eagles sat up there and watched Oklahoma and LSU and thought that Jalen Hurts was the person they should draft over Justin Jefferson or even trading up for CeeDee Lamb. The Eagles watched those games and came away from that thinking, oh, we got to get that Jalen Hurts guy. Forget Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb. What? Are you joking? A guy who's not even known for throwing the football? Because, they think he could be Lamar Jackson or something. And let's just keep this all the way real, man. Like, people are clamoring for Jalen Hurts and all this nonsense and yada, yada, yada. Thinking he's the next coming of something that he's probably not. Let's just keep this real because Howie Roseman's drafting history is pathetic. And if his drafting history tells us anything, it's that Jalen Hurts is more likely to be Brett Hundley, DeShone Kizer than he is to be Russell Wilson or Lamar Jackson. So for you to spend that pick in the second round, instead of getting the quarterback some more help as far as the wide receiver position, offensive line, tight end, running back, like something, you decide to get a quarterback in the second round who's useful for nothing except gadget plays. And they're like, we're going to use him like Taysom Hill. How valuable is Taysom Hill? He's a gadget guy. And Taysom Hill was undrafted. This guy was undrafted. He was not a draft pick. He was got up off the Green Bay Packers practice squad by the Saints. This guy was not drafted. And even then, let's take it a step further. When Taysom Hill, if Drew Brees is out, they don't even start him at quarterback. They started Teddy Bridgewater last year when Drew Brees went out. And then this year, they're starting Jameis Winston instead of Taysom Hill. So even then, he's not even the backup quarterback. And he's the so-called gadget guy who could throw the football. Like, what? If he's that good, then he should be able to be the backup. And so this stuff, it just doesn't make any sense to me. You just look at this stuff, it's just not adding up. And at some point, if you're Carson Wentz, like I said, I'm not excusing him because the stuff he's done this season is disgraceful. It's disgraceful. I can't defend this stuff anymore. It's ridiculous. But if you're Carson Wentz and you just sit there and because Carson Wentz, he's a smart guy, You could give us that gibberish shit like, I trust the coaches, I trust the GM and all stuff. But Carson Wentz is not an idiot. At what point do you just lose faith in the GM to surround you with talent? I mean, if you're Carson Wentz, you sit up here and look at Patrick Mahomes. He came to a situation where he had Kareem Hunt for a season, league's leading rusher, had Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce, good O-line. Defense was terrible, but it's an offensive league. That's really all it's about at this point. You look at that, and then you look at Deshaun Watson. He came to a situation, a couple 1,000-yard rushers last year. He had the best receiver in the league, DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, Kenny Stills. Not bad weapons. You look at Baker Mayfield, the luxuries that he's been afforded. The luxuries. My gosh, the luxuries. 2 number 1 receivers, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, and Austin Hooper, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, and the top two first-round tackles. You got Jack Conklin out of free agency. Then you get Jedrick Wills out of Alabama. I mean, my gosh, the luxuries that have been afforded to Baker Mayfield. And then he's got a premium edge rusher, a first-round corner on the defense, too. Baker Mayfield's got a lot of luxuries. And then you go to the NFC West, you see Kyler Murray has DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, Kenyon Drake's not bad. You look at Dak, you look in your own division, Dak Prescott. Got Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, Zeke, top O-line. Like, you look at some of these other quarterbacks. These are the young quarterbacks around the league. These aren't the old guys I'm naming. You look at the young quarterbacks around the league. You look at Jared Goff. He had Todd Gurley, who was MVP candidate at one point. You had Tyler Higbee and Everett at tight end. You got Robert Woods. You had Sammy Watkins at one point. You had Brandon Cooks. You have Josh Reynolds. Like, Van Jefferson is no slouch. Cooper Kupp is one of the best receivers in the league. You look at the luxuries that Jared Goff's been afforded too, and then you look at the stuff that Carson Wentz has played with. Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar. You're looking at Paul Turners and Bryce Treggs and Dorial Green Beckhams and all this stuff. Like, you're looking at Travis Fulghos, Boston Scott's, like dudes that are practice squad players. Deontay Burnett. You know, Greg Warren, a former college quarterback. Like, you're looking at these guys like, you what? Like, what is this? What are we talking about here? I mean, give me a break. Like I said, this is not excusable that Carson Wentz has 26, 24, 25, 26% off-target throws. But dang, could you give him some weapons that can run after the catch? Can you give him some guys that, okay, Carson Wentz usually misses high, some guys that have some vertical leaping ability? I mean, sometimes the receivers can make the quarterback look better than what they are. But the Eagles, they just don't value that clearly. Put all their eggs into the basket of drafting Jalen Reagor. He got hurt. What happened to DeAndre Hopkins? Just made a game-winning catch. Stephon Diggs put the Bills up with 34 seconds left against the Arizona Cardinals in that same game. The receivers make game-changing plays. It's why they're one of the highest-paid positions in the league. And the Eagles, they just completely ignore it, or they invest the wrong assets in it. You give Deshaun Jackson, who's old and broken. You give him Alshon Jeffrey. And then the rest of the guys, they're just practice squad players or guys that you completely missed on in the draft. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside over DK Metcalf, and so far Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. And people are going to continue to tell me that this is all Carson Wentz's fault? The Eagles are broken at many positions. And then you get to the coaching. I mean, give me a break with Doug Peterson. This guy the Eagles couldn't convert 1/3. They were 0 for 9 on third down against the New York Giants. Couldn't convert 1/3 down out of a bye week. You had 2 weeks to prepare for this game, and you couldn't get 1/3 down? That's coaching. That is coaching. That's not just on the quarterback. That is coaching. And the Eagles, they struggle to score. Struggle. The only quarterbacks they've beaten this year is Nick Mullins / CJ Beathard, Daniel Jones, and Ben DiNucci. And then going back to last year, like you beat up on the sorry NFC East, and then who else did you beat up on? Luke Falk? Like, I mean, give me a break, man. This team, they're not good. Why should anybody continue to have expectations for this team? Why should anybody continue to have expectations for this team? Now, I get it. If Carson Wentz was playing better, maybe this team would be a little better. But I don't believe that. There's no way in hell or heaven that you could convince me that this team would be better if Carson Wentz was playing better. Because look at Deshaun Watson right now. He's playing like a top 10 quarterback, and the Houston Texans are a pathetic 2-7. Because their roster is trash. This team, and isn't it funny how, okay, even if you say High Rose is not known, he's not known for his drafting. He's known for his cap work, his cap work. This team is the second most expensive roster in the league next year, and they're 3-5-1, and their 3 wins are against quarterbacks that aren't even good. And this is the second most expensive roster in the league. Zach Ertz wants a contract extension. He's not even a top 4 tight end right now. You're not George Kittle, Travis Kelce, or even Darren Waller for that sense. You're looking at Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson. They're the 3rd and 6th highest cap hits on the team. They're not playing. You look at the defensive line. This is the highest paid defensive line in the league. 3 dudes with Fletcher Cox, Malik Jackson, and Javon Hargrave. 3 dudes in the top 25 at their position getting paid, and they're not producing. Fletcher Cox is not Aaron Donald. He's not even Chris Jones. He's not producing. This is the great roster construction that the GM has done. Let me get to the linebackers. They're the worst in the league. They're not even like average. They're the worst, the absolute worst in the league. And then you get to the secondary. The Eagles, Darius Slay's great, But it doesn't matter because everybody else is not good. Jalen Mills is not good. He's a 7th round pick for a reason. He's not good. He wasn't good at corner. They moved him to safety and re-signed him. He's not good there. He's frequently busting coverages. Then you look at Avonte Maddox, a 5'9" corner on the outside because the Eagles have nothing but slot corners. Nickel Roby-Coleman used to be called the slot god. Now he's literally just a scrub. Like, he came to Philadelphia, forgot how to play football, forgot how to play corner in the slot. This guy was one of the best slot corners the last 3 or 4 years in with the Rams. He came to the Eagles. Now all of a sudden he just does not play football anymore. You look at the whole Eagles defense, they're not athletic. Like, there's nothing. Daniel Jones has outran them on 2 separate occasions. He should have had an 80-yard touchdown run on the first time the Eagles played them, but he tripped on the turf monster, and there was no Eagles defender close to him because he would have ran right in. And on his 34-yard run this past Sunday, he's outrunning the entire Eagles defense. Like, there's no athletes on the Eagles defense. None. You just look at, like, you're looking at this abomination, and what do you expect the quarterback to do with this? Talking about, oh, he's getting paid top quarterback money. He's got to overcome this. He overcame it last year, dragging the sorriest receiving core in the league to the playoffs, being the first quarterback to throw for 4,500 yards without a 500-yard receiver. So you're telling me I got to be Jesus again and turn water into wine consistently? That's not adding up to me. You mean to tell me I had to consistently make up for the GM's bad decision making routinely? I have to routinely turn water into wine when you're giving me nothing? Now, I can't defend Doug Peterson either. I feel bad for him at Carson Wentz because the GM has done them both a disservice. But some of the stuff that Doug Peterson has just drawn up, it's just disgraceful at this point. His coaching has come seriously into question. But you looking at this, it's an abomination at so many levels. Carson Wentz didn't have a turnover, and the Eagles still got beat by the Giants. Still got beat. And if we're being completely honest, the Eagles have gotten outplayed both times they played the Giants. The only reason they beat them last time is because Evan Ingram dropped a pass that he should have caught. If not for that, the Eagles would be 0-3 against the Giants and the Washington football team, who had top 10 picks last year. And their only division win would be against the Ben DiNucci-led Cowboys. What? This is a mess. This isn't a functional franchise. Nobody knows what they're doing. No one. The quarterback at this point, if I was him, I would have lost faith in the GM. They're not surrounding me with the supporting cast. The coach, he's clearly lost his mojo since the Super Bowl and doesn't know what he's doing. And the GM, he's just a terrible GM. There's no other way to slice it. Like, nothing he's doing has worked. Nothing. And then you see all the moves that he could have made, they're panning out with other teams. You didn't want to get Jalen Ramsey. He's the best corner in the league. You didn't want to get DeAndre Hopkins. He's one of the best receivers in the league. Kyler Murray looks 10 times better now. You didn't want to get Stephon Diggs. Josh Allen looks like an MVP candidate. You didn't draft DK Metcalf. You didn't draft Justin Jefferson. Like, these are moves that the GM could have made. And it's easy to say, oh, it's hindsight is 2020. But how is it so hard to make these moves when everybody else can see them? And these are people that are getting paid to do this. I'm just a silly fan talking about it. And I can see it. These are clear-cut moves that you should make. These aren't hard. You see that you have the worst receivers in the league and you don't want to get Stephon Diggs or DeAndre Hopkins. You see that you haven't drafted the receiver position correctly, but you're just going to go in hell-bent on getting speed instead of just getting good wide receivers overall. Daniel Jeremiah had Justin Jefferson as the 14th best player on his board in the draft process. Jalen Reagor was the 56th. I'm not a draft evaluator, but I'm just saying, someone who's an expert, I'm telling, 14 versus 56th. That's a 42. That's 42 spots. Like I said, I like Jalen Reagor, but I can't help but look at the fact that we could have had Justin Jefferson, see how he's balling with the Minnesota Vikings, a pick after you took Jalen Reagor. And I can't help but look at it and think, dang, Howie Roseman has done it again. It doesn't, this stuff just isn't adding up to me. This stuff just doesn't make sense. Andre Dillard was the first round pick last year. He hasn't played. He's not playing. He's out for the season. We're going to be he's going to be going into his third season. We don't know whether this guy is good or not. It's just like, dang, man. Dang, man. The Eagles, they're just so dumb. Like, oh my gosh. It's just so frustrating to think about. Like, you just can't help but say, damn. It's just like, it just doesn't add up. It just doesn't make any sense, man. This stuff, this isn't stuff that you even have to overthink. It's just like, look at your roster and see where you're deficient. Like, how can you look at your roster? How can you know that Carson Wentz is the first quarterback to throw for 4,500 yards without a 500-yard receiver and not think that your receiver position needs to be addressed? And the only thing you do meaningful to address it is the draft, unknown commodities. And then when you get to the draft, you choose the one commodity that's not even rated higher than the other. Like, what? Dang, man. Howie Roseman, it's a disgrace to see he still has a job. It's a disgrace. This guy does not deserve an NFL job as a GM. And the sad part is, he's not going to get fired either. That's the sad part of it all. Even if the Eagles lose the rest of their games, this guy's not going to get fired. The first guy that's probably going to be let go of is Doug. Because you can't get rid of Carson Wentz. You tied up into his contract for at least the next 2 years. So you have to find a way to fix him, which is what you should be doing anyways. Carson Wentz should not be responsible for this. The GM has done him a disservice. He's done the coach a disservice. But unfortunately, the first person who should be gone is Howie Roseman. But the first person that will be gone is Doug Peterson for sure. And it's just, I can't defend Doug Peterson, but I can defend him enough to say that he shouldn't be the first person to be gone. But Howie Roseman, he's got too much leeway. They're going to give him a chance to fix this before they let him go. But what is he showing you to let you know that he can? His drafting is porous over the last decade. How is a quarterback supposed to overcome a decade's worth of bad drafting? Like, and nobody is talking about this. All the television programs are talking about Wentz. They're getting on him. This guy's taking a lot of scrutiny. The fans are on him. The media is on him. National TV shows are on him. But no one is talking about this roster. No one is diving into the details of why the Eagles are bad. All you see is Carson Wentz and his nonsensical throws and his foolish highlights and all that stuff that he's doing. But no one is thinking about why this team is so god awful. And like I said, I'm not absolving Wentz. He deserves criticism. But dang, man, he's only 27. Why are we not looking at the coaching? Why are we not looking at Howie Roseman? Now, if Carson Wentz had the weapons that Baker Mayfield does and he was playing like this, oh no, you're done. You're done. I'm not defending. I can't defend that. No. That's why I say Baker Mayfield, he's just not a franchise. He's not a franchise quarterback. He's not that guy. Because at some point when you have been given the weaponry and you can't produce, oh, no. It's not about the coaching and it's not about the GM. At that point, it's about you. No. So in that instance, yes. But we've seen that Carson Wentz was an MVP candidate, about to win MVP at some point. We've seen last year, he carried this team into the playoffs with a sorry roster, sorry receivers. So we've seen him. We see that he has the ability. So knowing that, I have to look at all the variables and I have to go right to the top. And when I look at all the talent that's been passed on, now it's easy to say like, oh, well, everybody misses on the draft. How can you routinely this much miss on dudes that are right in front of your face? Right in front of your face. Like, it's not even just like, oh, like, you have to overthink that. It's like, dang, Justin Jefferson was playing in the national championship with LSU. It's the best conference in college football. DK Metcalf and AJ Brown were in the best conference in college football. What is there to overthink? You're taking guys out of the Pac-12 and the Big 12? What? Like TCU, Jalen Rager came from TCU. Like what? At least Oklahoma goes to the playoffs. CeeDee Lamb, like he goes to the playoffs, but even then, you can't watch the Oklahoma tape and sit there and tell me that you think Jalen Hurts is better at his position than CeeDee Lamb is at his. There's no way you could come to that conclusion. There's no talent evaluator in their right mind that could come away with that conclusion that you think Jalen Hurts is better than CeeDee Lamb if you watch their tape. There's no way you can convince me of that you could come away with that conclusion. It's impossible. But that's what happened with the Eagles. They watched the Oklahoma tape. Howie Roseman sat there and watched the tape and said, we don't need to trade up for that CeeDee Lamb guy. No, instead we're going to use our second round pick on that Jalen Hurts guy. Like, what? And he's not even playing. So you have 2 straight second round picks that are basically useless right now. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, he's a healthy scratch. The Eagles would rather bring in Alshon Jeffrey coming off of injury than J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, he's a healthy scratch. A year and a half into his career, he's a healthy scratch. And then Jalen Hurts, he's just a gadget guy. Your other first round pick from last year, he's not playing, he's hurt. And then this year, you look at Justin Jefferson, who went one pick after him, he's balling out while Jalen Rager, he's still getting acclimated. So your last 4 meaningful picks, because I don't even need to get into the 3rd round. Don't even get me started there. But your last 4 meaningful picks in the last 2 years, you don't know about any of them. You don't know about any of these guys. Andre Dillard's not good right now because he's not even playing. And when he was playing, he wasn't good. And J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is clearly a bust. And then this year you got Jalen Rager, who's been hurt the majority of the time. And the pick after him is balling that you could have had. And then Jalen Hurts is just a gadget guy. So you don't even really know what you have in him. And y'all gonna sit up here and tell me this is stellar GM skills? Oh, no, bruh. No. And then the litany of players you done missed on in free agency that you could have had or through trades and stuff. No, man. This is just flagrantly unacceptable at this point. This is damn near insubordination. Because I just never seen a franchise neglect investing in the $100 million quarterback. I've never seen anything like this before. You give the quarterback $100 million, but then you don't put a supporting cast around him. A supporting cast to give him everything he needs. Isn't that the point? To give the quarterback as much weaponry and as much resources as they need? Like, you look at the Chiefs, they're like, we already got the best receiving core in the league with Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, Sammy Watkins, and whatnot. You know what we gonna do? We gonna get Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the draft. You know what? Le'Veon Bell got cut. He used to be a top back in the league. You know what we gonna do? We gonna go get Le'Veon Bell too. Like, what? You see, they just keep adding parts to their team. The Eagles, they like, give me that guy off the practice squad. Yeah, that guy right there. Yep, let me get him. You off the practice squad. Yeah, let me get you too. You out of the Pac-12, you don't make the college football playoff. You guys aren't really that competitive in the FBS, but yeah, we'll take you over there. Like, what? Again, this is not to absolve Carson Wentz, but at the same time, I don't know how many quarterbacks would be succeeding in this very situation. This whole offense is dependent upon Carson Wentz playing perfect football. And we're seeing he masked a lot of deficiencies last year. Now that he's playing poorly, everything looks bad. Everything. He looks bad. The whole team looks bad. The whole organization looks bad. But when he carried them to that 9-7 record last year, and got them into the playoffs, you thought there was some optimism. But really, there's so many deficiencies on this team. Wide receiver, defensive line, corner, linebacker, coaching, GM. Like, this man was masking a lot of deficiencies, and he wasn't even playing that well. Now he's playing terrible, and now everything looks bad. Everything looks bad. And like I said, even if he was playing well, I don't think this team would be any better. Because Deshaun Watson, like I said, is playing like a top 10 quarterback and his team is 2-7. They're not good either. They're not good either. So what am I to believe? Well, I don't have any evidence that if Carson Wentz was playing better, this team would be better. No. I don't believe that. I don't. Which is why I just need them to lose the rest of their games, and hopefully maybe the owner will fire the GM. That's my only hope. Because I have no optimism for this team going forward as long as Howie Roseman's the GM. As long as Howie Roseman's the GM, this team's not going anywhere. I'm sorry. For any of you Eagles fans out there, I'm sorry. We should not have any faith in Howie Roseman as the GM. We should have zero faith in this guy because he's given us nothing to believe in. Got lucky one season in that anomaly season. Now the Eagles think they're so smart. Oh, get used to playing February football, guys. That's what Doug Peterson said. What? You can't even make it out of January. You're not even going to make it out of December. Get used to February football. You're not even going to make it out of December, bro. What are you talking about? Get used to this. These dudes think they're so smart and they don't know anything. Don't know when stuff is broken and don't know when stuff needs to be fixed. And they don't know what needs to be fixed. They don't even know. That's the thing. They don't know what's broken, and then they don't even know what needs to be fixed. They're fixing the wrong stuff with the wrong things. It's just a mess. It's a mess everywhere. You look at all these other franchises. You know, the Cardinals, they admitted their mistake with Josh Rosen. They got Kyler Murray. The Dolphins, they tanked or whatever they did last year. Now they're a competitive team. The Rams, they had that 1 year. Even last year, they weren't even bad. They just looked terrible. But their terrible was 9-7, missing the playoffs. But they play in the best division in the league. The Eagles playing the worst. And now look at them. They're balling. Look stable. Look like one of the best teams in the NFC. Even the Colts. Colts missed the playoffs the last few years. But you see the stellar job that their GM has done. The Colts have the best GM in the league to me. Other than maybe the Chiefs and maybe the Ravens. But the Colts have a top GM in the league for sure. You look at the job that he's done constructing that roster. And Phillip Rivers, he's not playing terrible. I mean, he's not playing stellar, but he's not playing terrible. But he's got a great roster around him to where he doesn't have to do much. Defense is elite. O-line is best in the league. Running game. Weapons are solid. Like, he doesn't have to do much. And all he has to do is be accurate. And the players will make plays. You look at you look at some of these other teams around the Dolphins, like they're good. Like I said, the Dolphins are good. Like teams that have rebuilt in a couple of years. Like that's all the Eagles need to do is just tear this nonsense down. And they can be right back to being a competitive team like the Dolphins and the Cardinals, the Rams even. That's all they need to do is tear some of this stuff down. But they have this false perception of who they really are. They're not good. You're struggling in a division where the Cowboys are trash, where the Washington football team is trash, and where the Giants are dysfunctional and they're trash. You're struggling in that division. Like, you're not even dominating your own division. Like, what? A division that has like 9-10 wins combined. Pittsburgh's 9-0. What? This is some, like, if you were as good as you thought you were, you'd be dominating this division at the bare minimum. You're not even doing that. You should be 0-3. You should be 0-4 in this division. Your only quality win is your only division win, like I said, is against Ben DiNucci of the Cowboys. You should have lost to the Giants twice, and you've already gotten beat by the Washington football team. Like, you have 3 wins through 9 games. Like, what? This is... Yeah, at this point, I think Carson Wentz has to get out of here. If he's to reach his full potential, it's not going to be with the current infrastructure of the Philadelphia Eagles with Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman. Somebody's got to go. It really is Howie Roseman. I'm not saying I have the utmost faith in Doug because his offense is stale. It's been caught up to, and he doesn't even have an offensive play caller. This the Eagles, the only team in the league. They must be the only team in the league that doesn't have an offensive coordinator. They got passing game coordinators, pass game analysts, run game coordinator. Like they got all types of stuff. Like they got all types of stuff except an actual offensive coordinator. And Doug clearly doesn't want to relinquish play calling duties. But at this point, who could you relinquish them to? Because there's no offensive coordinator. For the life of me, I don't understand why they don't have one. Even Andy Reid, the best play caller in the league, Andy Reid has an offensive coordinator. And Doug must think he's something that he's not. Like, Doug, like, bro, humble yourself. You need to be humble. Kendrick Lamar, be humble. You need to humble yourself because your play calling, it stinks. It's not as impressive as you think it is. You came out of a bye week and couldn't convert a third down against the Giants, who are 26th in the league in third down percentage. What? No. No, bro, you need an offensive coordinator. And those dudes, Mike Groh and Carson Walsh, that you were trying to keep on your staff, no, they should have been fired. Wide receivers coach talking about Matt Collins grades out well because he's aligning right and assigning right. The disgrace. The disgrace. That guy deserves to keep his job. And then Mike Groh, who was not bringing you anything at all, adding anything to the offense. Like, what was his job? No. You don't deserve control over your own staff. I'm sorry. You need an offensive coordinator because this trash is not working. It's not. On any level. So I don't know how I don't know how Carson went. Like, I think he has to get out of here, honestly. It's not gonna happen for the next 2 or 3 years, but unless Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman leave, or unless Howie Roseman's gone and maybe, the Eagles get some better talent, I don't really see how this operation gets fixed. There's no way to fix this operation without 2 of the 3 people being fired. There's no way to fix this operation if Howie Roseman is still the GM. There's no way. There's no way. But even with Doug Peterson, there's hope that it can be fixed if you get rid of Howie Roseman and, get a different GM up in here. But there's no hope as long as Howie Roseman's here. And there may not be. There's a very slight glimmer of hope if Doug Peterson is here. So I think 2 out of 3 of them have to be gone. Well, yeah, one of those 2 has to be gone. And it really has to be Howie Roseman first, because he doesn't deserve to be in the Philadelphia. He doesn't deserve to be in the city of Philadelphia anymore. He needs to pack his bags up and get the heck up out of the city of brotherly love. He doesn't even deserve a Liberty Bell souvenir on his way out. Not even a cheesesteak either. He should be banned for the disgrace that he's done to this city. It's a disgrace. The poor drafting, the poor job that he's done. And he gets to keep his job. Known for for his cap ability. He's got the second most expensive roster in the league. And this team is old, bad, and expensive. Next year, the second most expensive roster in the league. You get to keep your job. What? I can't fathom this nonsense. That's why I gave up on this team at the beginning of the year, because I just saw this foolishness, this nonsense. I'm just like, this isn't going anywhere. Even if the Eagles get into the playoffs, the NFC East, the gift, the NFC East, whoever makes it into the playoffs, the gift they get is a beat down in the first round, in the wild card round. That's all they're going to get. That's their gift. You make it to the playoffs, it's not even a reward. Your reward is getting smacked in the first round. You're not going to the Super Bowl. Doesn't matter what team makes the playoffs. No team in this division should be wanting to make the playoffs. No team. I know I don't want the Eagles to. I feel like some way they'll just find a way to, and then, we'll be right back here. Everything will stay the same, and they'll think nothing's wrong, as usual. Heads got to roll. The Eagles got to lose games, but that's all I got, guys. I just wanted to come and give some context on, this whole nightmare. I just feel like I had to come and, add clarity to this whole situation. Carson deserves a whole lot of blame for this, but on the same note, he's been masking the deficiencies and the shortcomings of this whole organization for, a couple seasons. And, now it's coming to pass since he's playing like the worst quarterback in the league. and I've been his apologist for a while, but I'm not doing it anymore. Not for this season. This season's been a disgrace on his part. But I can't sit up here and say that the coaching's been good, and I for sure can't say that Hire Roseman's been good because I've gotten on him since day one. So that's it. But that's all I got, guys. I appreciate you guys for listening. As always, like, share, subscribe. Until then, I'm out. Peace. This is AC. One love.